Hi everyone here and around the world, and Halloween cheers to all our Earthfiles YouTube channel viewers in every country, everywhere around this planet. May you all stay safe and be protected. Last week's Earthfiles broadcast was about massive 2 to 3 mile diameter UFO craft reported by many people during the famous March 13th, 1997 Phoenix Lights phenomena in Tucson and Phoenix, Arizona. Some of the huge aerial craft were triangle-shaped, while other UFOs were boomerang-shaped. And after my broadcast, I received another eyewitness report of a massive triangle-shaped craft from a Georgia truck driver named Jonathan Cinnamon, now 41 years old, living in Tallapoosa, Georgia. John Cinnamon was born in Clayton County, Georgia, and grew up about 781 miles further west in Waco, Texas. He says his father was very rough on him, and by teenage years, his parents divorced. But when Johnny Cinnamon was 23 years old in 2006, living in Waco, he bought a car that he wanted to show off to his dad.
I had a hot rod, convertible Mustang, and it was about 11 o'clock at night. Me and my dad were in the Mustang, and I took him for a cruise up the street, just showing him how powerful the car was. And then I came back to my house, and I pulled into the driveway, and I shut the car off. Me and my dad were just sitting in the car with the top down, and we were talking about my childhood, and he was apologizing how he was a dad and stuff, and we were staring at the sky, and I saw something coming. I asked my dad, "You seeing what I'm seeing?" He said, "Yes." And I asked him, I said, "What you reckon that is?" He said, "I don't know, son." We just kept looking at it. I was like, "Oh my God, look how big it is." I said, "Can you see the stars?" And he was like, "Yeah, I can."
And in your email to me, you said the most enormous triangle that you could ever imagine being in the sky, and you can see through it. You can see the stars behind it.
It was so big in the sky and not have no sound. It's just mind-boggling how much power that it had to be able to sit there and float with no sound whatsoever.
But how were you and your dad seeing through it, seeing the stars behind it? It was like you were looking at a triangle that was transparent.
Well, I don't know how we saw through it. I do remember seeing some lights on it. I remember they flashed simultaneously. You know, something like on a runway where it goes light, 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 light.
Right.
The bottom of it, it was like lights flashed from the back to the front, which way it was moving, and it would just like blink, 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 blink. Then it'd come back and repeat, blink, 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 blink. When that thing moved in, like if we wouldn't have been looking at the sky, we would have never saw it. It was so transparent. I mean, it was like the same color as the sky was. You could still see the stars through the craft.
How is that possible?
I have no idea. I've watched your show probably 5 times. I've never was into aliens or nothing like that until I witnessed that with my own eyes. I have done all my research. I've watched everything as far as George and you talking about all these crafts. There's nothing else like it other than that craft that they saw in Arizona.
This was in 2006, and you would have been 23 years old.
Yes, ma'am.
When you are staring at this massive thing now, taking up the sky above you with your dad, and you have the sense that you're looking through it and seeing stars, is it possible that this was such an advanced technology that it was literally projecting in its entire base a perfect match of our night sky on its base so that it would essentially not be visible to most humans, that it was trying to camouflage itself by matching itself to the sky it was moving through?
Absolutely.
And how long do you think you and your dad were sitting there watching this huge triangle?
We watched it for a good 30 seconds to a minute. Got out of sight. After that thing got out of sight, I looked over at my dad. I thought, man, I'm getting in the house. So we put the top up on the car, and we literally ran in the house. My mom and my girlfriend at the time was inside the house, and we tried to explain to them what we had just saw. You know, my dad took it to the grave, but he didn't want me to tell nobody. He says, nobody ever going to believe you, man. They're going to think you're crazy. Till recently, with all this UFO Disclosure Act and all this stuff going on,
Right.
we had never told nobody. And I wanted to tell somebody, but we never did because, we don't want to be categorized as some psycho loons.
And now you have heard me do a story just a week ago on my Earthfiles YouTube channel about the 2-mile long triangle, 2-mile long boomerang craft that have been reported and sketched from the Phoenix Lights event going all the way back to March 13th, 1997. And you and I are talking today on October 26, 2024. And yet, look at what you and your dad saw, and you didn't tell anybody. Just think of what is out there in the world that humans have seen, but they have been afraid to speak.
Every day we learn something new about what's really going on. I don't think the government, they're never going to disclose everything, that's for sure. But there's other intelligence in this world that us humans have no type of understanding.
And today, what do you say to the people who are still saying there's nothing to UFOs?
Start doing your own research. It changes everything. Everything that we were made to believe, our ancient history, it changes everything when you witness something like that.
Anything that could have a craft that might be 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 miles in diameter, with the ability to camouflage itself on the base by matching the star field that it is flying through. Why are they here? And why have they not made themselves public? We are a world now waiting for governments to tell us the truth. And yet so many people in the 8 billion who live on the surface of Earth have seen huge, gigantic craft that humans could never have made. What do you say to your fellow human beings about living with the huge lie that we're alone in the universe?
To be honest with you, Linda, I think the government, that's their way of controlling the narrative.
Why?
Because I think if we all knew we could get free energy, takes money out of the pocket.
To tell the truth that advanced intelligences are throughout this universe?
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
The reality that we think is our reality is definitely not our reality.
Back in the summer of 1980, after the first broadcast of my documentary, A Strange Harvest, about bloodless, trackless animal mutilations linked to extraterrestrial harvests, I received a phone call from a pilot working for a military unit in Colorado Springs. He came to my office at KMGH-TV, the CBS station where I was director of special projects. And that was the first time a whistleblower came forward to me with information, and in this case told me about our government's discovery that the extraterrestrial technologies were so advanced that large craft can travel in Earth's skies completely camouflaged as stars at night that exactly match the starry sky, or blend into daytime environments with surfaces that the human eyes and minds cannot detect unless there is a glitch in the ET technology. And in fact, not long ago, I received this email from an Earthfiles viewer. Quote, "My daughter has seen something strange in the night sky on a few occasions. The weird thing she has noticed a few times is that a part of the night sky will be a little darker than the area around it. It will look like the night sky with stars, but that section is not quite the same as the surrounding sky. She said it is almost like seeing a puzzle piece. She said that section will not be stationary like the rest of the sky. It's almost like something is trying to disguise itself as just a section of sky so that it can move about without being noticed. And next is an excerpt from an August 16th, 2024 email to Earthfiles, also about a triangle pattern in the night sky, but with stars moving. Quote, "My dad had been a navigator in the U.S. Navy, and he was very familiar with the constellations and could point them out and tell me their names. On one particular night, as we were walking and stargazing, my father pointed to 3 stars forming a triangle and said, 'I don't know what that is.' And just as he said that, they started to move very erratically. They zipped apart and zigzagged and then rapidly came back together into the triangle again. And then they would zip across the sky and then suddenly stop. It was amazing. My mother later said, 'Something from another planet,'" close quote. And tonight I have an update on an aerospace source to my October 9th, 2024 Exoplanet program on this Earthfiles YouTube channel. In my October 9th, 2024 Earthfiles program, I showed this star map of our Earth with Proxima Centauri and TRAPPIST-1 that are 2 planetary systems likely to have intelligence life because, as I am told by an insider, because the James Webb Space Telescope is picking up, quote, "potential evidence of artificial light," close quote. And now more recently, I have received another communication highlighting the TRAPPIST-1e planet, about 40 light years from Earth. And here is an excerpt from a recent communication that I have received. Quote, "TRAPPIST-1e. We know for sure of separate continental landmasses on that planet at TRAPPIST-1. It's known as E1e. Oceans cover about 65% of the planet 1e. An atmosphere that almost matches ours on Earth, except for the fact of several rare gases in very small quantities. There are 2 land masses that have the majority of artificial light, and artificial light is being detected around the equator portions in mass. The atmosphere also has indicators exhibiting nuclear reactions for power production by way of byproducts of those energy sources that may be powering the culture of whatever the inhabitants of TRAPPIST-1e are." The source also said, quote, "The discovery of these planets in various systems with confirmation of intelligence based on the production of artificial light and nuclear energy systems is not highly classified, surprisingly enough, as you would expect from JSOC, the Joint Special Operations Command. Not being highly classified makes me think it's because the powers that be want to make an announcement from either NASA or the European Space Agency or a combined disclosure statement from both agencies," close quote. So what is holding back the important announcement of at least confirmed artificial light and energy systems on other planets in our Milky Way galaxy that resembles the Andromeda galaxy shown in this NASA image? The current 2024 scientific estimate is that the number of planets in our Milky Way galaxy alone is between 100 billion and 1 trillion planets, with most scientists leaning toward the higher end due to observations that most stars host at least 1 planet. Simply put, our planet Earth is in a universe filled with matter, energy, and likely life of some kind everywhere. And Ian, on that note, that it's up to us to report and discover the universe is there, filled with consciousness? Have you learned anything about when the date, the time of the next congressional hearing will be in this coming month of November, as I keep hearing? But what is happening?
Yes, I'm happy to bring you news just received today via Danny Sheehan's updated email through the New Paradigm Institute, which states that November 13th is fast approaching. November the 13th, public UAP hearings update. This is a report from Matt Laslow's reporting, who seems to be the go-to source for developments on the upcoming UAP hearings, which are scheduled for November the 13th. Representative Nancy Mace from South Carolina is set to chair the next public hearing in the U.S. House and has stated, and this is in quotes, "Come hell or high water, it will proceed." Mace plans to bring forward witnesses with direct hands-on UAP experience, a critical step for genuine transparency. So, yes, that's the very latest update.
Okay, Ian, so all of us can write on the November 13th, 2024 square of our calendar that there should be a congressional hearing, Nancy Mace in charge, and any information yet on what Senator Gillibrand might be doing. And the reason I'm asking these questions is if we could start this fall of 2024 with some hearings, that might precipitate hurrying up more and telling the facts of something that seems as genuinely important as TRAPPIST-1 having both the frequencies of light and signatures having to do with nuclear energy. And we could start it through those very positive confirmations.
Yes, well, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand is quoted in this latest email update as saying that she previously voiced her support for the House hearing, declaring that the more disclosure, the better. However, some remain skeptical about how much will be revealed because some witnesses are bound by non-disclosure agreements. So that will potentially limit their testimonies even within classified facilities.
I wonder who can wave the magic wand and say, all NDAs, all of it neutralized. We're now going to start telling the true story of Earth. I guess.
As I understand it, they are able to release some of these in their secure facilities in these skiffs.
Yeah.
But it remains within those facilities. So
that's right.
This is where we need to find out what is said in those facilities and when will we know what is being said.
And I really hope, and Ian asked for the feedback from the chat. It seems like that this show and last week's show and all of the shows that the Earthfiles YouTube channel has been doing, that so much is coming through people who are willing to talk, that what awaits us about the true nature of our Earth, the moon, our solar system, and the idea that that statistic between 100 billion and 1 trillion planets in this Milky Way galaxy alone, reflecting the information from Andromeda and beyond, and that there may be 3 trillion galaxies, and you start multiplying trillions and billions. It's like the universe is more amazing than I ever thought it could be.
I think this is what we're finding. It's truly mind-boggling. These figures are mind-boggling. I don't think we can we might just as well say an infinite number.
Exactly. And it makes sense that if we are a life form and we are still in evolutionary progression, trying to even understand ourselves and stop killing each other, that the universe must be just mind-blowing in terms of all of the possibilities. And then you come back to that word frequencies. What is on what frequencies from low to high, and that maybe the story could be great, but we are kept in this tiny little place that we're on a planet that orbits a sun, but let's not talk about the other trillion suns.
No, in fact, Linda, we've got a question here that relates directly to the universe about the. This is from Tarantina from Argentina. Thank you and welcome to the show, and thank you for the super chat this evening. Please ask this question for Linda. Linda, do you have a hypothesis on why the universe is now said to be contracting instead of expanding? Astronomers say maybe we need to become near to other civilizations. What are your views?
I have read some of those reports and understand that it is still a big puzzle, but I would say that out of the discussions that I have been able to sit and talk with somebody who has firsthand knowledge face to face, then one of the most important parts of understanding the whole extraterrestrial, we'll call it other layer, is that other dimensions are one of the keys. And we live on a planet Earth that is described as being in the third dimension. And government sources and military sources who have talked to me casually about this, meaning without proof, but we've talked about, is it true, as I have been told, that any extraterrestrials that are advanced in the third dimension might be coming in to make cushion shots through other dimensions, and that this is the way that they move light years? And that the distance between where we are in terms of science, physics, beginning to even understand that there may be a 12-layered dimensional universe, and that's one universe, and that 12 dimensions in this one universe, in another universe, it could be different. And that the complexity of frequencies, dimensions, and how you move through the vastness of all of these layers is the key to those that are advanced enough to do it, versus a planet where the entire 8 billion population, for the most part, has evolved without being taught or learning anything about the physics, which then suggests that we are alive and conscious, probably because it is true that there is a vast genetic experiment that is going on in this solar system. I've heard that since going all the way back to doing a strange harvest, and that the reason for the harvest of the blood, tissue, and fluid, including whole hearts from inside of animals, was a harvest, and then there have been 2 or 3 branches of what that means, and then a harvest for, and it was keeping some other intelligence alive, and that was why Earth was harvested from human sperm, human eggs, animal blood, animal tissue, and we are providing the ability for something else to survive. That was the way it was presented to me back in 1980. And over the years between 80 and now 2024, there have been variations around the central theme that maybe what Homo sapien has never fully understood is that our whole planet, the whole evolutionary process, the multitudes of life are because of other beings more sophisticated than we are, might make garden planets or doctor planets or medical planets, and that there is that kind of level that is going on this planet, But by now, the question that I ask humbly to the people who have the answers in JSOC and the Pentagon and the intel agencies since World War II, why can't we simply be told that humanity and Earth provide help to some intelligences that we could be introduced to, and maybe we would finally move into, instead of a layer of complete ignorance, that we would start moving into another layer in which we then might be able to go in technologies, maybe in other dimensions. But I've been told that also is a big problem. Right now, as we are coming to the close of 2024, with all kinds of remote viewers saying that between now and 2030, a lot could happen, wouldn't this be an ideal time to tell the whole world, good, bad, and neutral, what is expected and why, and that we are finally going to be introduced to those that have proven themselves to be allies? If there were no allies, what would happen? I have to assume that there are allies. So, opening up on the ground, the landscape of what is behind all of the various historical stories about beings that certainly could be from other planets, having to do with so many of the tributaries of history coming through so many different levels to where we are right now in a century that seems to be heading toward more and more violence. Could we change that course? Could we change the rest of this century to peace, to love, to agape hugs, to joining with ally ETs and going out into this vast universe with no other goal but trying to understand and evolve? That seems fair. If they made us, they could help us understand how we could evolve positively without wars. I wonder, Ian, if what is now going to open up in the next chapter of hearings, as I have understood it, that there will be more grushes, people with really solid information who are being given the permission to talk about it, and that will include, I believe, that the technologies include being able to move in other dimensions. And that means that beings from other dimensions, higher than 3, can come to our dimension. And somewhere in there, apparently, are all of the complexities that are either considered to be so difficult that humans would never be able to handle it. And I completely disagree. I really think that we are a species waiting to be shown the path of light and evolution if, as Philip J. Corso wrote in my book the day after Roswell, he autographed it for me and he said, "Linda, a new age is coming if you can take it," meaning us humans. And in the book and in the discussions with Lieutenant Colonel Corso, was his discussion about the whole, what is it that is being held and kept back from humans about a future that could be coming, that we would have perhaps more rapid evolution. And on that note, I'm going to throw it back to you, Ian, for comments from people in our chat. Wow, chocolate is trying to take over.
Yeah, I wanted to just bring you a bit more news because I checked out one of the original sources, which is Ask a Poll from Danny Sheehan's email to me earlier. And May says, this is what the Nancy May says, I want whistleblowers to feel like they can come forward. I want people protected. Every American deserves the right to know how their tax dollars are being spent and what's being spent on. And if it's no big deal, why hold it? Why hide it? She says, I go to these skiffs. I'll go for a briefing in a classified setting. And well, we can't tell you because, you know, I'm not read in on it. I don't know the name of the program. I'm not read in on it, Mace tells Askapol. How the hell are we supposed to know how much money is being spent on it and where it's being spent? So, yeah, that's you know, the crux of it, really. We need greater transparency and put the government on the spot at the end of the day. That's how she sums it up and finalizes that.
Well, and I want to say, why shouldn't we be saying government of the United States that is becoming so complex and difficult to understand? Government of the United States, all facets, just tell the whole truth. If we are to be a true government of, by, and for the people, that is what should happen. Why can't it happen? That's what they keep saying, essentially. Then it'll just be 1,000 skiffs with people having tete-a-tetes that they can't exchange. And that, to me, is an insult to all of the rest of us who are not in the skiff land. And if people listening tonight, if you agree with me or disagree with me, would you please send some texts to Ian? Because I truly am baffled about, we keep going through revolutionary political times with each election. It's as if there is this unsettled energy in the United States. And maybe there is an opportunity to do several things at once. Re-energize government of, by, and for the people. That's a concept that this land, the United States of America, was founded on. We are so far from that today, it's not funny. And it may be that if there are trillionaires and the political powers, they don't want to give up their exclusive hold on the extraterrestrial presence to keep us dumb and blind, because then it's easier to have government control. But all of that seems to be counterproductive and going the wrong direction. So I'm throwing that. Am I totally wrong? Do you think that you all, we have over 278,000 subscribers now. I would love to get a vote of 278,000 people. What do you think could be a productive step that could happen between all these layers of government and layers of trillionaires on a planet that is moving into a time in which every person may need every person at very shocking times, because we are going into a climate change, and people can argue about why, but I think it is pretty clear that it is happening. More floods, more fires. We need each other at the agape level in order to survive on a planet that's going through this. Wouldn't this be the perfect time if there really are allies who understand everything? Why couldn't we be introduced and told the truth? And if we finally got onto a planet of truth, maybe there wouldn't be so many cockeyed wars. Anyway, I would love to know what those of you willing to send some comment to Ian, to me, I would love to know what your feeling and your attitude is, because doesn't it feel like in every direction that nothing seems quite genuine anymore? And artificial intelligence is confusing that as well. I would hope that governments of the West would at least coalesce and say, Australia, Canada, England, the United States, we really have to get on the same page for the evolution of our humans in our territories to keep going. I think that's becoming really clear. Okay, Ian, I'll throw it to you, but if you get specific comments about what I'm saying, let me know. And I'm not going to turn Earthfiles into a political discussion group, but I'm bringing up what seems to me to be really profound questions at a time when it's being rubbed in our face by a current presidential election, that things are not well in the House of the United States of America. Go ahead, Ian.
Okay, well, we'll keep an eye on the comments here, and please jump in with your comments on what you think. I'm gathering some up already. We're also getting lots of reports from people who have had direct eyewitness accounts to the cloaking of these large triangular craft. Matthew Simmons says, triangular cloaking device in the sky. Yes, back in April. Even have a video on my YouTube channel of it.
Wait, just so I can
Ian. Same craft.
Yeah, Ian, let me just, do you mean that they're talking about seeing parts of the sky moving and one man got it on video?
Yeah, Matthew Sims here says triangular cloaking device in the sky. Yes, back in April. I even have a video on my YouTube channel of it. A woman in Minnesota also saw the same craft 15 minutes apart from my friend and I. Now, I don't know where he was located, but this is another thing, that when we have corroborating eyewitness accounts, even though they may be some distance apart of the same craft,
right,
but within a very short time frame, this is very interesting.
Well,
so that's an interesting one.
It is. If we could literally capture, and it could be shown to any physicist who would comment on it, that part of the, what would we call it, the canopy of the night sky, that there was a part that was moving in relationship to the rest of it. If that could be proved, wouldn't that be big?
Yeah, people have got actual video of the cloaking taking place, and that's fantastic that we could actually have actual physical proof of it.
Well, that's the hard part, Ian, is how do you prove that a video, it's like you would have to have a ring of people who have signed their names that they will be videotaping. You would need somebody who checked the cameras. You see what I mean? You'd have to go through quite a reality check on what is actually happening and you'd have to have tripods with cameras on them, because any movement of the person who was attached to the camera could make the camera move. This would be hard, and it would be vital to set it up so that there would be no question about the purity of running cameras and capturing some part of the field, the starry field, that moved different from the surrounding. That's the challenge, how to do that and do it scientifically. I'm open to suggestions to you guys.
Yeah, me too. Send us your information and what you have. Michael Williams contacted me earlier before we went on air tonight, referenced the Phoenix Lights craft. I was at the AMF bowling alley off the 60 rural, getting finished Tuesday night bowling with my family when this happened. I'll tell you what I remember most: the stars blacking out and then coming back into view in the absolute strangest way. I'm 37 now and I cannot forget any of that. my parents' faces, just fear and awe.
And that implies that something is interrupting photons and matter as it moves, but it cannot be seen by the human mind and eye.
Yeah, it's they actually notice something strange in the sky. The stars are blacked out, then they come back on.
Right.
We've heard of this for years, where people have described sometimes just the black triangle, sometimes with the lights, but how it seems so black, even blacker than the night sky. So that's another description that we've received.
But Ian, one more footnote here is that in the interview tonight with the man from Waco, Texas, he was talking about how difficult it was to sort of relate to what is in front of you, what are you seeing with your eyes. And I wonder, is there maybe what we ought to start trying to do is get links to scientists who would be willing to help on actual physics problems without political. And I think that's part of the challenge here is we're opening up and seeing the difficulties of reporting and then proving, which has always been the case. But now we really could do a lot together if we all could do some work together.
Yeah, and people are still sending us some, they're reporting in the chat. And if you can give us a detailed report, any of these people in the chat, please contact us directly at earthfiles@earthfiles.com, and Ian at earthfiles.com. We'd be very interested to have a full report on what you've actually seen and the way that you've actually witnessed the cloaking. CECE 2004, we both saw it, totally cloaked and appeared to be 3 stars. I saw it first. You had to concentrate in this one area in the sky. It moved very slowly, very high in the sky. But people are saying that they saw it totally cloaked.
Right.
Also, in the lead up to tonight's show, Blue Pilled World says, yes, they do cloak themselves. I have witnessed it. And Gimbal also says, yes, I saw the same. And I believe they've also sent us a video at earthfiles@earthfiles.com. So we'll need to look out for that as well.
And there is this huge question that is pulsing bigger for me than ever before. If there are non-humans, let's say the tall whites and the Nordics, and possibly some of the grays, and none of us really know, but if there are groups that are monitoring us because we are supposed to be on an evolutionary path, why would they come here in the 20th century without making a handshake, without it being public? If it had all happened 100 years ago and it was all open publicly around the world, it seems like it would be a different planet. Do you see what I mean? Is why would advanced beings have a whole planet of 8 billion people through evolutionary processes going back thousands, millions of years? Why would they still not be shaking hands with us now?
We don't know whether or not there is some sort of agreement or something that they cannot interfere, a non-interference pact or something like that, that they have to stand by and observe, but can only tacitly appear to us from time to time and help us in some ways. But some ET races seem to ignore that, because we've got, as you refer to it, the direct harvesting of human and animal tissue going back years, which, the evidence,
millions
as far as I'm
of years.
concerned, yeah, as far as I'm concerned, is evidence to ET behaviour. One of the things that people are floating in the chat as well is the craft have the ability to cloak and hide themselves. Therefore, they don't want to be seen, but they also have the ability, as Wallace says in the chat, that they purposely showed themselves or can cloak and uncloak themselves instantaneously. So it is obviously a tactic that they can use to disguise themselves, but also to reveal themselves.
Yes, and either way you cut it, until there is some kind of formal global Earth, all political, all trillionaires, everybody on the same page, we're going to introduce humanity now to, and then there come all of the question marks and all the efforts to control those that are going to try so hard to control, being the controllers of the handshake, which then leaves everything still in the category of what's the truth, what isn't, who gives a damn about humans, who doesn't. I mean, it is getting to a point where I hope that we can continue on Earthfiles YouTube channel to report as much as we can that are coming from people who have firsthand, and I'm going to try to concentrate now as we get more and more information on more scientists, more doctors. But it's still that big, huge jump to look at the world that we're in now and what is happening and fighting. And how do we get past that to where the wholeness of human family needs to be told finally the truth, because it may be the only way that humans will be able to evolve, right? That there is something that actually knows more about the universe we're in than we do, and we are the students, and they could teach us. So it's that disconnect now that leaves the feeling of what do you trust? But then it's been like that since World War II as well.
Vance Sochi says in the chat tonight, could it be so horrific that they dare not tell us? And Haley Powell says, if we reincarnate to forget, then that's probably why the truth is always kept from us. I mean, the whole truth about, it reminds me about, as you say, that reincarnation is the machinery of this universe. Yeah. If we are reincarnating and we're not remembering past lives, unless it's just brief glimpses, deja vus, and recovering past life information through hypnotic regression, aren't we all just programmed to keep forgetting and keep repeating ourselves?
That's definitely a valid question, but I prefer myself to live and think that what I sense in people that I think is their soul is definitely wonderful and strong and worth fighting for. And maybe it is the strongest part of humanity, and it may be what the non-humans themselves need or want. And what an irony it would be that if this manipulated species of Homo sapiens sapien of the last at least 45,000 years had abilities that the ETs that scare us, intimidate us, don't have. That's been suggested to me. So who is the parent? Who is the teacher? And who is the student? All I feel right now tonight is that so much of what is happening on the earth is not straightforward in any direction. And that if there are non-humans who are waiting for us to evolve to a species that can be straightforward at all times, because that's the only way to survive, we're already down in a hole. Are there any people in the chat tonight, listening right now, who are physicists, medical doctors, biophysicists, who would be willing to help someone like my efforts, in which I like to keep investigating and reporting what I can, but there is so much that is difficult without having people who are well trained. And one of the disconnects over the last 45 years has been that no one wanted to work on projects related to UFOs and ETs. But doesn't it feel, and I'll throw this back to you, Ian, in the chat, that we are now at a crossroads in which what is crucial, that humanity can't evolve forward in any form if we aren't introduced to extraterrestrial civilizations that have been in and out of this solar system and using our planet and possibly our soul energies for their own survival. That needs to be laid out on the table, I think, as well. It's really odd how strange this lens. It's like the idea of our story tonight. You mean that you can actually put a camera on a tripod and aim it at a section of the sky, and you will see a section of the sky that will move differently from the rest of the sky? So the level of illusion, the level of cover-up that extends to that, what motivates it? What is the main reason that advanced intelligences would be doing everything hidden? Any insights, Ian, in any of the comments?
Well, I'll keep bringing you the comments as I receive them. And Spirit of Anu says, I agree with the original caller. I have believed for a while disclosure is not up to any government. That is not where the power is. We've also got lots of people who are
what does that mean, Ian? What does that mean? Who has the power?
I'm not sure if they're referring to, perhaps you could clarify it, Spirit of Anu, again. Do you mean that the power is not with the government, but with perhaps the ETs or with another group that remains hidden within the government?
Or
let's have clarification.
Humans, yeah. Go ahead, Ian.
Some of these reports of people who are seeing, want to report their sightings, etc. Scully 82 has things to say, and this might be a place that you're familiar with. I saw water churn white and lift about a foot high in a dome shape as a craft hovered about 30 feet above the water on Hayden Lake, Idaho. Actually, that's from New.
Yes, it's a beautiful place.
Yeah, so there's a good report of the interaction with water. That's from New. Scully 82 says, we were a group of kids on a fishing pier at night. There were about 8 of us in Key Largo, Florida, when this huge triangle flew over us towards the east horizon. And they say it looked like the stars. So perhaps they were also seeing this cloaking of reflecting the stars
and
underneath.
the big triangles, like that's one group, or is it? Who is in the curved ones? Who is in the plates? Type. Yeah, the boomerang. Who are in the plates? You know what I mean, round plates. There's so many different variations. And the big theme, though, is that for centuries and centuries and centuries, humanity has usually been put in the dark for reasons that are not clear. Like, what is actually happening on Earth between extraterrestrial civilizations that can go and jump dimensions? Why can't Earth be just opened up into the whole huge big enchilada of what's going on? That baffles me.
I'm also seeing Steady says, I've known about this from 1975 when a massive UFO hung over myself. 3 friends and hundreds of other people witnessed this. Nothing built here back then.
And what happened? Meaning that she remembers it, but what happened? Were they given information? Were they had eggs taken, skin taken? I mean, did something happen?
Yeah, please give us more information on all of these sightings. We want to know more. And very often, like I just said about Skull, is a report about being a group of 8 kids fishing at night. Maybe it's like the Pascagoula incident where something else happened and people are just remembering being perhaps thinking that they're just a casual observer to seeing the beginning of a UFO event and an end of a UFO event, but there's a whole part that they don't know, where they perhaps were taken or perhaps abducted.
Yeah, the missing time of it all. Is there anybody who is saying in the chat that they do have military or other firsthand knowledge about extraterrestrials, whichever kind?
I'm not seeing any of those at the moment, but please let us know if you do have any of those.
Let me put out a request if there are, because I know that there are several of you who work in classified units and you come on Wednesday nights. And this is sort of like an open frustration evening on the heels of working with people who have had real interactions with real ETs, and how frustrating it is all becoming, because you can only say we're dangling that, yes, there's other intelligences in the universe, but that's as far as we're going to go. And I don't think that's going to work anymore. Do you, Ian?
No, and I want to clarify this from Spirit of Anu, who says, my answer is, I believe the power is with the ETs, not the governments here.
Like the Israeli, yeah, I've heard several people who have said that ETs are the ones who are controlling the introduction. But
exactly,
once,
it was the Israeli Eshad, wasn't it?
Yes, but what does that mean in the big scheme of, well, what are we humans to something that has been here for so many thousands of years on its own projects, and we can't see them because they know how to cloak, they move dimensions, they manipulate time, we are left in the dark. Why? What is that picture? Why are we the ones that are in the dark?
Yeah, and why do some of us have, let's say, some partial memories, but not full memories? Why is that? Is there that disconnect? Why? So many questions about why. New also says, I saw a craft about 30 feet over a power line causing a glowing fog between it and the power line. So you've got the 2 interactions there that were witnessed, one above the water and one above a power line. And these were effects on both.
And the power lines have been a part of the UFO story for decades and decades, with the hypothesis that the UFOs are taking energy or doing something with the energy systems, but perhaps it has to do with the frequencies that they have to deal with in terms of the functioning of their craft may or may not be addressable by tapping into power systems on the Earth. I have no idea whether that's true or not, but there's a long association of people who have seen UFOs putting some kind of a rod down into a power station and assuming that they are taking in energy. Let's see, we're at our half-hour level. I am so fascinated by the feeling, Ian, are you, that it feels almost like we are breaking through one of the layers of denial, and that this is a time, and might continue through the hearings, that hopefully will not give up in Washington, where it's moving from, oh, do you think that there really are ETs, to, tell me everything you know about ETs. I get that a lot. And it's ironic when the policy of denial is still heavily entrenched, but humanity is beginning to ask with fervent energy, tell me all that you know. And that's what I hope that we can keep doing on the Earthfiles YouTube channel. And Ian, you are so valuable in interfacing. I can't thank you enough. And Brad and Eric and everybody who we are trying to bring facts on subject that somebody doesn't want facts to be shared with the general population. What a situation. Anything else, Ian?
I want to just acknowledge our super chats. We're glad to welcome back Moonbird. If you won't remember, Moonbird is from Asheville, North Carolina, and says things are slowly getting back to normal, but it seems to have been a horrific experience. So welcome back. Also, we've got Whisper of Love, Comedy Exposure, Vase Sokchi, Haley Powell, Joe DeShayes. I'm sorry if I've missed anybody else out, but I also want to say, let's remind people to hit the likes and also to subscribe to us. And this episode of Earthfiles, like all episodes of Earthfiles, is available as a podcast wherever you get your favorite podcasts from.
Thank you for that. And one other sort of, I guess I'm going to say to here, is the subjects that you most want to learn about, hear about. Send in like chat pieces to Ian, and I'll ask him over the next week or two to go through and figure out where there is the most which subjects you want to discuss the most. And that way, if you want to send me something that is also personal and you don't want it to be on the air, I never ever use anything that doesn't have a recording with the person giving their name and military DD-214s. So I do protect, but I feel like this is really an important time for those of you who have real factual information. Please reach out to me as best you can, whether it is through ProtonMail, hard mail, FedEx. I receive materials all three of those ways, and as far as I know, nothing has ever had a consequence to the people who do that. And hope that as we're getting ready to go into a new year, that we humans, if we would stop fighting, we might have the energy, the power, the soul to make a complete new direction on dear planet Earth before we are so self-destructive that we hurt our planet and it can no longer provide us a planet to live on. That would be beyond comprehensible. So maybe this is some kind of a turning point when the shadows seem like they're getting longer, things are getting darker. Maybe this is where, if all of us could concentrate on actual truth and real knowledge, maybe it would make a difference. And on that, agape hug to everyone, everywhere. Truly stay safe for Halloween, and I'll see you here next week.
Turn on closed captions for YouTube videos by clicking the white CC button on the lower right. The default language for Linda's videos is English. If you would like to see the captions in another language, click on the white settings button next to the CC button. Select Subtitles CC, and then select Auto Translate. Select a language,
bind them anywhere. They love
And the
to
captions
have
will now
their
appear
heads
in that language.
sort of gone through, and they will hold their heads. I never had a cat do that before. And they'll pull against the comb, helping me get out snarls. And I think it's the best they've ever been.